When I was a kid, I would go into convenience stores and look through the magazine racks. And I was interested in some of the monster and science fiction magazines. And I began to pick up many of the Warren magazines, such as Eerie, Creepy, Famous Monsters. And at one point I discovered Marvel's Epic magazine. I was flirting with comics at the time. I wasn't approaching the American ones very much. I was familiar with some of the Mexican comics. And I remember one day on the racks I saw something different. And it was a heavy metal magazine. And of course, looking through it, it was a little bit different than the other Warren publications. And I was, obviously as a boy, I was fascinated by the women in the stories. And that was the initial attraction of just seeing this. And now, I did see that it said it was an adult magazine, but I got some other magazines to buy, and I went up to the counter, and surprisingly, they let me buy it. And for the next several months, I was able to do that. And certainly, the stories of heavy metal kind of, I think they significantly affected the type of influence, the type of stories that I liked in comics, or at least in the genre. This issue is from June 1981. Is one of the early ones that I bought. And to give you an example of why this was so surprising to me to be able to see this, I discovered in the pages Heavy Metal, of course, Mr. Richard Corbin. There's an interview with him. This is not Den, but Bloodstar, but I had discovered Den in the pages of this magazine. And of course, I saw the film one late night when we had HBO at the time. When HBO would be free on the weekends to try to get people to sign up for it when it was new. And I discovered Bilal in this series, in this magazine. Again, these were very different stories than anything else I had seen before. Steranka, adaptation of Outland, Sean Connery film. Chaikin, whom I would later on continue to read in American Flag and The Black Kiss. And, of course, Valentina. And it was Valentina and the story with the astronaut that just stayed with me. So for a couple of months, I was able to buy this magazine. After a month or so, being able to buy these, after a few months, and then a month passed, and I didn't see the magazine, I went to the counter, make my purchase of, I guess, some Warren publication. And I look behind the counter, and what do I see? I see, of course, they have the Playboys, the Hustlers, the Penthouse, and I see Heavy Metal. It was in the adult section. And I remember asking the clerk, innocently, as if the clerk had made a mistake, that I requested if I could get the Heavy Metal magazine. And I remember he looked at me and says, "That's for adults." And I said, "Yes, but it's been out with the others, and so I think that's where it should be." There's something like that. It's not very persuasive in my arguments. And he just looked at me and said, well, it shouldn't have been out there. But I think he just looked at me as if I was some strange creature. I mean, I was very young at the time. So, I couldn't buy it. And it was a very sad day. And that day turned very sad weeks, months, and a couple of years. Because I never knew what happened with these stories. And no one I knew was going to get me this magazine, and no one I knew was reading it. And I think if some of the adults knew what I was reading, they would probably be a little bit shocked. But Valentina just fascinated me, and as you've watched some of my videos, that's obvious. So, when I discovered a few years ago that there was a complete set in Italian of all the Valentina stories, I was interested. American sellers had them, but it was a lot of money. And I remember one New York seller had them for almost $1,000 because it was going to be 18 volumes. And and of course they were from Italy. And then when I got on eBay, when I got an account with eBay, I saw that, yeah, the Italian sellers had them, but they were hundreds of euros, not including shipping, and of course international shipping, even for one book. Sometimes it's 20, 40 euros. Well, I've been waiting, and it came up on eBay that an Italian seller had some. And it was low, what he was asking. And the shipping, of course, was kind of pricey, but not as much as I thought it would be. So I emailed the seller and said he would ship to the States, and he said he would. But I was debating it. And finally I just decided, well, I'll just do it. It sounds almost too good to be true, the price and the shipping. I may not even get them. And then if I don't get them, well, at least they're protected by eBay. eBay's pretty good about this. And I had never seen them priced this low. So I decided to just do it. And I ordered them. Waited about 2 weeks. Waiting. There was no tracking, mind you. Just that it had been shipped. I noticed that it had been. And I was just skeptical if I was going to get them. And when I checked the mail over the weekend, there it was, this huge box, very weighty. And I brought it back home and was a little bit wary about opening it, thinking this, I don't know, it's a little bit beat up on the outside. It has been through a lot. But I opened it, and this is what I found. Volumes 1 through 18 of Valentina. Let's see. There we go. It's they're all in hardback. As you can see, it's got each on the sides got a little picture of Valentina. 18 volumes. And as I saw them in the box, I was just stunned. I was worried there was going to be condition problems, but there wasn't. They're in very nice condition. Each volume has, of course, text that I cannot read, telling you the history of the particular stories that are being discussed. And then, of course, we have the stories themselves. Now, I think I have about a quarter, maybe a little bit more, of the stories in Spanish and in English. And each one of these volumes is about 160 pages. And let's just say I was just stunned when I saw these beautiful books. Presently on eBay, the cheapest one is for 200 euros, or just about 200 euros, not including the shipping. You have to email the seller for the shipping. Let's just say I paid less than 200 euros for all this, including the shipping. Much less. I still can't believe it. That's volume 1. I hope these don't fall on me here. Volume 2. Three. And again, they all pretty much have the same back. I mean, the same, well, you can see. And I've been looking through them. They are just beautiful books. And fortunately, I have a good chunk of the story. It's volume 5, I'm sorry. And of course, the likeness of Valentina is based on the silent film actress Louise Brooks. And volume 6. 7. 8. 9. 10. 11. 12. 13. 14. 15. 16. 17. Oh, this one collects the magic lantern, which I've shown a video for. And 18. Afraid these are going to fall on me here. It's not very stable. Let's see, volume 18. I mean, just incredible looking books. Crepax is just an amazing writer and artist. His imagination was superb. And a man who clearly loved women. Again, this is one of the best buys I've ever done. I've ever been fortunate to do. I mean, I'm glad a couple of years ago, I was very close to buy them from the New York publisher for almost $1,000. And I'm so glad I didn't. And I was just very, very fortunate. So it's taken many, many decades to get this story from when I was a little kid buying Heavy Metal magazine. And at last, Valentina is home.